Thanks for being here. So I directed the film, and for our film, it's about a teenage boy who has a girlfriend in VR, and he has this like very rich life online in VR, in a VR game, but then his life outside of the game is very different. And so to shoot the movie, we basically designed the set of a VR game in a game engine, and then shot half of the movie inside of it, and then the rest was live action. So we did that with like motion capture for the game, and it was like a combination of like animation, mocap, like if you've heard the like 90s term like machinima, like machine animation. And so I think like that's kind of how we used it, and it really was about like playing and experimenting and designing something new, because we couldn't shoot inside of a real video game because there's some violence in the film, so we kind of built our own. And I think the biggest thing that I learned, like this was my graduate film thesis for NYU, and I didn't even know we had like a motion capture stage at school, and we had like access to all these things like from a school level. And when I first told my professors about it, they were like, oh, so you're making like an AI Marvel movie? And I was like, no, I wish I was making a Marvel movie. No, not at all. And so I think like there's all these misconceptions, like you have to be on an LED stage, or like there's no AI, I think, in any of our work. And like, yeah, I think we're all like very, very feel strongly about the artistic integrity of our work. And so, yeah, I think it's like, as Michael said, it's a tool to help you make your films like even better or more authentic and real.
Yeah, hi guys, I'm Sappir. So when Noam came to me with the idea, the beginnings of the idea of Reverse, kind of from jump, from a script standpoint, as writers, we were looking at the fact that we were going to be in VR, and we were going to be in motion capture, so approaching the literary aspect, we had a lot more freedom with the world building we were going to do, and a lot more creative liberties to kind of make bigger choices and more interesting choices for our characters that otherwise would have been possible without this aspect of virtual production. And you know, as a writer, it's kind of our responsibility on that end to make the script the best it can be for the tools that we're going to be using. And so we got to be on set and kind of workshop those things too with the actors as the mocap was happening and as the virtual production side of things started coming to life. And I think also some of the language for the script was things we considered too with virtual production, because a lot of the ways people speak to each other online or on the internet can often be different than how they talk to each other in person. So that was some other considerations we had too.
You're in is real, and the people that you are around or embodying is real, and your brain is like, it's getting all the signals that like, yes, this is me. So whenever situations happen and you have an intimate relationship, or you have like an assault, like phantom touch is a real documented thing. And you know, it's been covered in other ways too, such as people who've lost limbs, where they can feel sensation, you know, even though it's not actually there, like they don't have their arm or whatever. And what's really interesting is how people use these illusions to create these intimate experiences and make them deeper. And to some extent, that's a really beautiful thing, but on the other extent, it's kind of a scary thing. And I think Reverse shows kind of the both beauty and scary aspects of it. Like, what happens when someone misuses this, or they don't take it seriously? It's just a game, bro. Why are you so upset that I did these inappropriate things to you? It's just take off the headset. And it's hard to understand how real and deep that feels, and it really can change you. You can have true brain responses to those things. And so working on Verse from a consulting perspective was really cool, because we got to create a story. Well, you created the story, but I got to help give some guidance on how to make it real, you know?
You did too. With all the script and the
Yeah,
VR
we
chat,
never
how
really
they speak
did
to
it
each other, we couldn't have done it without you.
And I think it turned out really amazing. You guys did a great job. And for anybody out there who does spend a lot of time in VR chat or online worlds, or maybe you're just chronically on Reddit or something, I think that you can still identify with a lot of the themes of that awkwardness of, you know, virtual to real and the beauty in it.
Contacted me to be a science advisor on Noam and Sappir's short film Verse. I was tasked with not only advising towards the scientific content of the script, but also to help secure some more funding for the film. So the funding sources said that they did not find the phantom touch sensation to be plausible. They thought it was a non-scientific, made-up idea, and then they needed some expert like me to validate the scientific concerns, because they were a scientifically oriented organization. So I answered that, yeah, not only is it plausible, but it's a well-researched phenomena. Eyes illusion, which is when you put cameras on a little doll, and then you put a VR headset on the subject, and then have them look at their little doll body, and then you touch their leg, their actual leg, and their little doll leg. Essentially what happens is they feel like they inhabit the body of the doll, which is also a really interesting illusion. And this happens because of multi-sensory integration. Your brain is constantly trying to guess and integrate different senses to figure out where your body is, where you are, what's going on. So that can basically allow this multiple sensory integration, and when they happen simultaneously in time, that is kind of critical for this integration mechanism to give you a sense of bodily ownership, that this is actually your body that you're seeing. And because we're a visually dominant species, what can happen is you no longer need the touch sensation. All you need to do is see it, and that will actually dominate, and you will begin to actually feel the touch without actually being touched. So that's the basic mechanism in the parietal cortex and premotor cortex that does this. And our brain also actively creates maps of virtual spaces when we interact with them. So there are cells in the hippocampus, it's a fancy word for an area of the temporal lobe. They have these cells called place cells, which basically they do things like map where a rat is in a maze, or map where you are driving on your way to work. It's sort of like the GPS in your mind. And essentially, when you go into VR, they've actually found both in humans and animals, many different animals. They put a lot of animals in VR, interestingly enough. That when you have an audio and a visual stimulus, that is actually sufficient to recruit about 25 to 30% of place cells in your hippocampus to map out where you are in this virtual space. In a quick note, out-of-body experiences, which people are often very interested in, are associated when place cells fire in a disorganized firing pattern. So the idea that your head is on the ceiling is a result of this mismatching of these different stimuli. One thing is perceiving other bodies in a virtual space, perceiving the avatar of another. So the temporal cortex analyzes what a body is, the form of the body, while the parietal cortex analyzes how a body moves, right? So oftentimes, then we'll also integrate how it sounds, how it smells, how it touches in reality, right? So when you have a mismatch in these signals, when it looks like a human but then moves really weird, it doesn't quite move like a human, that can generate what we call the uncanny valley response, where people become very uncomfortable and they become no longer convinced that this is indeed a real human body. So we've done some studies about that as well, which I think are a lot of fun to creep people out.